Sound's gone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Ingrid Jones, and welcome to this special evening with Eddie Chambers, Fast Eddie Chambers. A lot of people know who Eddie Chambers is. A lot of people don't know who Eddie Chambers is. So tonight we're going to find out who Fast Eddie Chambers is. So we'll start by saying, good evening, Eddie.
Good evening. Well, for me, it's kind of the evening. It's late. Yeah. Okay. It's the evening here too.
So it's 10 o'clock my time, 5 o'clock your time.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I know I'm a little bit late. I get bad rap for that. So, I'm on CPT all the time, I guess, huh?
Exactly. So, I mean, where are we talking to you from at the moment, Eddie?
Oh, no. It's
in America. Where are you
huh?
in America?
Oh, I'm actually in Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
Okay. So, for those people who don't know who you are and who I'm talking to, I'd be surprised. Just tell everybody a little bit more about you and what you do.
Well, I am a professional boxer. If you didn't already know that, I get and well, you can't see it right now, but I'm not a very big person, but I am fighting heavyweight. So therefore, I'm always fighting these big giant monsters who literally are trying to take my head off, and almost succeed every now and again. So, I got to make sure my skills stay pretty tight. But and I really, for those who don't know, I really don't have this temperament of a normal person who would be fighting. So that's a little bit about me. I mean, I don't know. I need you. You're the interviewer.
Okay, so let's get your professional record. What's your professional record?
Oh yeah, I could have said that. Sorry about that. I'm actually 42-4 as a professional. I've been pro now about 50. I'm almost 16 years,
Okay.
and turned professional also at 18 after
Right.
4 years amateur. So
okay, so let's talk
that's
a little
pretty
bit
much.
about Eddie Chambers. Let's first of all, the first question is, what got you into boxing, Eddie?
Actually, my father got me into boxing. I mean, as a youngster, I watched it a lot because he was always watching it. Most of the time when you're a kid, you have a father in your life, which is not everyone. Everyone's not that fortunate. You kind of take after what they do and what they like, and I started to take a liking to it by watching it. But though I watched it and though I got into it a lot, I was never a fighter. I was never that kind of a guy. You know what I mean? I wasn't a fighting type. But there's one thing I remember as a kid. I was about 8 years old, and I do remember this is kind of off the path a little bit. I remember watching Mike Tyson. It's crazy. I actually watched Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas, at
Wow.
8 years old. And I remember after watching Mike lose. I mean, everybody was, you know, wanted Mike to win. I think everybody in the world, beside Buster Douglas' family and his team, wanted Mike to win. So when I seen it, I'm like, I can't believe this dude beat Mike Tyson. I started getting mad. Like, I'm about to start training. I went up and got behind like a little area and started shadow boxing. I had no idea what the hell I was doing, thinking I'm going to get in there and avenge Mike Tyson's. That was the first time at any point that I even actually thought about actually competing in the sport. And I know people are going to say, well, you was 8. You saw something bad happen to a guy that you admired. So that's really basically it. But it's funny because the next year, I actually started training with my dad. I guess my dad must have saw something there and always was probably grooming me for, the idea of boxing. And I used to watch it with him all the time. So he said, when I about 9-year old, I started training. He literally bought me a mouthpiece and got my gloves and the headgear and the cup and everything. And he took me over to the gym a few times, but we did most of the training at the house.
So where were you living at that time?
Well, I'm actually because I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I was actually in Pittsburgh in the what part of the town? I was actually in the Lincoln Leamington area, which is the East Liberty, which is the east side of Pittsburgh. And it was funny. I remember my dad, even at 9 years old, my dad was putting a lot on those punches when he had us in the house doing those drills. So I think working with him and the intent he had and what he wanted me to do and how he was training me at the time was was honestly what made me really tough. You know, fighting all these big guys and everything. Most people look at me like I was crazy. Like, are you kidding me? Why don't you either go down to a lighter weight or get bigger? Well, I can't just get bigger, but you know what I mean? But why don't you go down to a lighter weight? Now, well, you know, I was kind of used to always being kind of a dog, you know, and it kind of suits me because I like proving people wrong. And, you know, with my dad and the way he trained me and got me really, really tough and able to deal with, you know, guys. And even when I was sparring, even when I got into the gym and really got serious about it, I was always sparring guys that were better or on another level. Let's say at 15 and 16 years old, I was fighting, you know, I was sparring with professionals. So it kind of moved me you know, I guess in the right direction and prepared me for what I'd be facing, you know, later on, well, slightly later on in life.
So your amateur record, what did you do as an amateur in terms of belts or titles, or, you know, what do you do what was your record like as an amateur?
This might surprise you, but I was not a great amateur. No, but honestly, I learned a lot as an amateur, and you know, I beat some guys who actually had turned out to be decent amateurs. But at the time that I was coming along, I was so young. You know, I remember I tried to compete in the open class at 16, and at that time it wasn't. You know, you weren't able. Even now, you still can't. And it was funny because I went to the wrong tournament. Like, I was thinking that we were going to go to the National Golden Gloves at 16, and you can't. You're ineligible because of your age. And I was supposed to go to the JO Nationals. So I ended up going to the actual big state finals, and I've won the regional to get to the state in the open class. And I got to the open class, and I had fought this guy, and he actually turned out to be a friend of mine. And this was probably the worst. I don't know if I could say this, but the worst ass whooping I've ever gotten as an amateur at this point. And it was. I think he was in his 20s at the time. And I just knew I was going to go to the Nationals. It was in Biloxi that year, and I'm getting in the ring, you know, kind of confident, thinking that I'm gonna be able to win this fight. Man, I went. Look, let's just say that Monday, it looked like I had a my ear was swollen, literally sitting out off my head. My nose, I looked like a raccoon going into school, and people were looking like, "What is going on? What's wrong?" You know, but it was just the kind of thing that, you know, like that's what happens. You know what I mean? As a kid, and I wanted to go there, but after that, I actually went and competed in the right tournament and ended up finishing at third in the in the JO Nationals in Marquette, Michigan.
So do you have no ambitions of fighting world championships or going to fight in the Olympics? Was it, or representing the USA? Was that not something that you?
I did. I really did. Every year I wanted to compete high level nationally, and you know, one time I've only competed at 2 national tournaments in my entire amateur career. But you know, the progress. Our thing was we were always looking to turn professional. We weren't necessarily thinking about being an Olympic champion, but we felt like, well, if there's a chance of it, you know, if there's an opportunity for it, we'll take it. But other than that, you know, maybe get that, you know, that Olympic money, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
You get medal, or you get to become that, you know, that representative for your country. You're looking at a good start as a professional. So we thought of it, but never really. And like I said, I only fought 4 years amateur, and I really only fought 2 national tournaments. So it never really happened for me. And honestly, I wasn't that big of a, and me coming from Pittsburgh, and at the time Pittsburgh, and even now still, you know what I mean? It was never really the biggest, you know, most prestigious boxing town. I mean, they had great talent there, but it was always difficult to make it. If you remember, Michael Moore, being from Menneson, which was close by, had went on to, you know, Detroit to work with Emmanuel and the guys, and then even Paul Spadafora, who stayed around Pittsburgh for the most part, but still trained in different places. It was really difficult. You know, it's really difficult to make, you know, a career of it living there. So, you know, even being from there as an amateur, you don't really have a lot to see besides, like I said, Paul, who was around the area and really kind of took me under his wing a lot. when I was coming up as a professional, as a young professional, and even an amateur. But there wasn't a lot of other guys. You really didn't have that. I mean, there was a guy by the name of Timmy Williamson who I sparred with and used to kick my behind every day for the almost every day for the longest time. The first southpaw I fought, the first one that actually taught me how to really taught me how to fight a southpaw. He was another one that I could look to because he had won a national tournament from Pittsburgh. But like I said, there really wasn't a lot of us, so we were going to tournaments just hoping to finish, in a high number, but we didn't expect to win per se.
Okay, I got it.
It just wasn't, it wasn't the same kind of attitude that a guy from Philadelphia would have going, to a tournament expecting to dominate,
Okay, the class of, which class would you have been in? I mean, you hear about the class of 92, which had, I think, Holyfield and Mark Breland and Pernell Whitaker and Meldrick Taylor. So which class would you have been, or which class would you have been around when you were about to turn pro? Or before, just before turning pro?
It was 2000 was actually tried to qualify for the 2000 team. And I got disqualified for holding, if you believe that. And it was just, at that point, it was just, I just couldn't. Honestly, I couldn't wait any longer. My dad felt the same way. Well, actually, my dad was the one really pushing it. I couldn't imagine myself as a professional fighter.
Right.
And I was always fighting big guys. Like I said, remember, I'm heavyweight. So, and I'm a small heavyweight. So I was like, I don't know. And I remember, imagine Mike Tyson throwing punches and hitting on Eddie. You know what I mean? Back in the day. And I was like, I thought about it myself. I was like, I don't know. Being a professional is a different world. So, even then, my dad really had that in his head. Look, at 8, you're a grown man. I'm going to turn you professional. And we stuck to it.
So in 2000, you said 2000. So who was around in 2000 then that we would know?
Well, I remember representative for us was Calvin Brock.
Calvin Brock, yes.
Who else? Yeah, well, that was the I think was Juarez. Jose Navarro was there. Who else was on that team? It was Jermaine Taylor, I believe, was on that team.
Okay.
I think was Michael Bennett I think Michael Bennett was a 2000 guy. So I remember I got it. Jeff Lacey. I think all of those guys.
Okay.
I remember
Jeff Lacey. Right.
So it was that was the team I would have been a part of, but I couldn't make it even out of Eastern Trials. That disqualification. It was just say, what the heck with it, man. Let's just move on with it and try to get to being a top level professional.
Okay. I've got some people in the room I need to acknowledge very quickly, Eddie. While they're in the room, let's acknowledge them. Okay, we've got Mr. Metz, 85, good evening. Real C. Nesbitt, music producer. Mark Smith, the Beast. So these people are in the room. The first question's been asked. I don't want to go too much into things, but this is relevant to where we're at the moment. Hi, Ingram. Hope you're well. As I said before, Eddie reminds me of a Joe Walcott with his slick skills. Can you ask Eddie if he's been influenced by him at all?
Jersey Joe Walcott.
Yeah.
Was that? Yeah. Honestly, yeah. It's funny because one of my close friends is like a father. Well, more like like an uncle. Is the better name, but Cliff. He always says that same thing, and it's really has a lot to do with James Bashir, who's always mentioned things like that to me. And as we were training together, he always encouraged to watch film of these guys, learn from the greats and how they move, and pick things that work well with what you do. And honestly, I would watch Jersey Joe. There's I think Ezra Charles, different guys like that. Obviously, I'm a huge James Toney fan. James Toney, most people, he's more of this era as opposed to old school guy. And him mentioned Jersey Joe. Well, if you watch James, you'll realize how much of a throwback James is as far as his skill level and what he does and how he's able to fight at crazy high weights and out of shape, just relax and be comfortable with punches coming at him. And all of these guys I really studied and I started to really watch them. And if you some of the there's a lot of that. Pause.
Okay, thanks for that. Let's move on. So you turned professional. What was the decision that said, you know what, I'm turning pro? This is the time I'm going to turn pro.
Well, honestly, my father was really influential. You know, I wanted. You know, I was thinking, I don't know if I'm ready for it. You know, I'm not even really 100% involved like into it, thinking like I'm, you know, a fighter. I don't really feel. You know what I mean? I didn't really want to do that honestly at first. And you know, a lot of times as a kid, you're doing things because of your family, right? And friends, and everybody else is involved in it, and they love it. And he's like, oh, well, that's why I'm gonna do it. But eventually, I started to really get good and comfortable, and that was just my identity is that. So once he said, "Hey, we're turning professional at 18," I'm sitting there like, "Yeah, right. Yeah, we're going to 18." Then all of a sudden, that time came, and I did. I was like, crap. And I remember I had my first fight. I was so nervous. I was more nervous for my first professional fight than I was even for my first amateur fight. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was so nervous that the guy threw a punch and it landed, and I didn't even feel it. That's how nervous I was. I had no feeling. You know what I'm saying? But
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. But you know, once I popped my cherry, so to speak, on that whole situation, it actually turned out to be, somewhat of an addiction. Nothing crazy as far as, not do think of nothing else but that. But we were doing it so often, and I got so much better at it, and I started really progressing, and it just went on from there.
So okay, you turn pro, you become a professional fighter. How did you hook up with Bashir?
Oh, well, that's funny. Been with my father for 25 straight years plus, and then he decided to move down to Florida, and then I ended up working with Rob Murray Sr. for a while. We had our little title run and everything. It was always, and certain instructions, certain things that I always really wanted to have. I mean, I had a great relationship with Rob, and it was good for at the time, but we really needed, more instruction, more experience. And Rob had a lot of experience, but more on the business side. But he dabbled in training. You understand what I'm saying? So it was something missing, like I said. So once we started talking with Bashir, and Bashir, I mean, we've been knowing Bashir since, probably, 08, 09, we really started to have a relationship with him. Then I started to see, and I'm like, man, let me see what this guy's about. And my brother started working with him, and I saw his knowledge base was crazy. I'm like, this guy knows everything. Like, why isn't he a marquee trainer? And I remember so many different guys had told me about. I remember he was Andre Perlet was one of his fighters that I first met, and Andre Perlet was talking. Dre was just talking constantly about Bashir this, Bashir that. And I'm like, this guy must be great. Like, he must be the best dude on planet Earth. This is how great he was saying. And I'm like, so I said, oh, eventually I'm gonna meet this guy. And when I finally met him, I was like, damn. So I ended up being just like Andre, just telling everybody like, yo, Bashir's this, Bashir's that. And I still cannot have a bad thing to say about the guy. Like, his knowledge is crazy, and he's easy to be around. You know what I'm saying? The camp I had with him when I was training for Tomas Adamek was probably one of my favorite camps I've ever had. And I wish I could duplicate that throughout every fight I ever would have from now until, whenever I decide not to, to hang it up. But it was just guys like that. And he actually renewed at one point because my whole thing about boxing was down, with a lot of the crap that was going on. And I had a couple of injuries back to back. And, once I got in that camp and started training and working with him and started really learning more and more, up to 1,000. So I was ready to go. Okay. And so with him, that's how I got introduced to it. He reintroduced me to boxing.
Okay, let's talk about being an unbeaten fighter. What does that feel like when you were an unbeaten fighter? You moving?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I don't know why it went down so far.
Okay, can you hear me?
I'm trying to find a way. You know what? I'm gonna go outside. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to move around. I'm on the run. Oh, you can't really hear me. Thing going on. I'm going with you. Hello?
Hello.
You still there?
I'm still here. We're still here.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to make sure I can hear you because it's real low. I don't know why. Okay. Now I'm going outside.
Oh, nice.
Got bees chasing me. I don't know. You can see me now?
Beautiful. Yeah, I can see you. Beautiful.
Okay, great. Yeah, now I'm walking to the car.
So we're
It's like a
talking.
day in the life.
So I was saying to you, where were we? Yeah, what was it like being an unbeaten fighter?
For me, it was at that point, I'll be honest with you. Um, I was so excited about that for a while. And I remember when I first seen my name in the top 15 in the world. Man, I put that thing right above my bed and was like, this is special. And because it really is, when you're considered top 15 in the world, or just top anything in the world, that's an amazing accomplishment. And me being a young man like that, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't help it. I loved it, so, but then now being, and then being undefeated on top of that, amazing, honestly. And, I was checking my box rec all the time. You know what I mean? I couldn't, it was just like, the type of, that's all that was what consumed my time and my life at that point. That's all I thought about.
Right.
Was my rating.
Okay. For people who just joining the show, for people just joining the show, this is Eddie Chambers. We're just doing the life and times of Eddie Chambers, how he turned from an amateur, what he did as an amateur, as a young boy, then turning pro. We're now talking about him being an unbeaten fighter, and now we're going to talk about him. So what did it feel like losing your unbeaten record? Tell me that process and who you lost it to. Oh, picture's gone. I think we've just lost Eddie Chambers. He will be back with us. So, okay. For those just joining the room, just talking to Eddie Chambers. And he will be back with us shortly. So, questions have been asked. How many miles a day should I run as an amateur? What is the topic, Ingram? Good evening, Mark Smith. The topic is just generally talking about Eddie Chambers and his career. Benjamin Berger says, my question to Eddie is his top 3 heavyweights in America at the moment. Cool. Mark Smith, can we ask questions after? You can ask questions in between. No problems with that whatsoever. So we're just waiting for Eddie. I think he's driving at the moment. Apparently his connection is not good at the moment. So we'll just wait and see what happens with him. He will be back. I don't know where he's gone at the moment. Edward's disappeared. It's like a bit of a magician. He's in and out. So if you just joined us, Eddie was talking about his career as an amateur. He wasn't a very good amateur at all. And he believed he was going to the national championships. And when he went to the national championships, he found himself on the end of a hiding. Talks about how when he first started turned pro, that he had someone in his corner who was not very technically gifted as a coach, but more gifted in the business side of things, and he felt there was something missing. So then he met James El-Bashir, and by meeting James El-Bashir, that's how he was able to develop as a fighter. And he said Ali Bashir, believed Ali Bashir is probably the best thing on the planet. So we're just waiting for Eddie Chambers to connect back. So while Eddie Chambers is out, what I will do is ask the questions as they come in. And of course, I'll ask them relevant to the questions that have been asked. And then afterwards, we can ask external questions afterwards about the heavyweights, because the aim of this evening really is to get to know a little bit more about Eddie Chambers. But he's disappeared, as you can tell. So we can just keep talking until Eddie returns. But yeah, of course, you're more than happy to ask questions. Eddie Chambers also asked us a question by Mr. Metz 85 thing about Josie Joe Walcott. His influence was really because of James Adebashir. Eddie said earlier, he said James Adebashir was a key influence to his life in terms of boxing. And he was told by James Adebashir to study all the older fighters. So we're still waiting for Eddie to come back wherever he is at the moment. And he said he was going to drive off and go, and I think he's dropping his son to a match or something in between. So he's going to try and reconnect. Let me see if I can call Eddie and find out where he's at while we're live on the show. Eddie's probably driving at the moment as I'm trying to call him, so. No. So we're just waiting for Eddie to get to his location. He's basically going to either going to a football match or he's waiting to pick his son up from a football match, one or the other. So we're just going to wait until Eddie gets back. He says, Maximus asks, can you ask him how the traveling community treat him and what he learned from them? I will do. As soon as Eddie, as you've seen, I've just tried to contact Eddie, but he's still driving. So as soon as he gets back off the road, I will continue. In the time being, we can talk about other matters. First of all, we can talk while we're waiting. We can talk about Eubank Jr. versus Billy Joe Saunders. As I said yesterday, this looks like a fight that's going to happen sooner rather than later. So we're looking for. So I'll be looking forward to hear the announcement about that. That seems that something's going to happen soon. So just waiting for Eddie Chambers to come back into the room. Mark says, "Are you looking forward to the Gennady Golovkin fight, Ingram?" LOL. Fight. I think Massacre is more like it. I think Dominic's in Wade too deep, as I've been cracking that joke all the time. It looks like a straightforward defense. Like I said before, Dominic Wade looks like a novice. I will definitely be talking to Abel Sanchez before the fight and asking his opinion on what he thinks of Dominic Wade. But to me, he looks like he looks like a novice, and a novice fighters look better than Dominic Wade. I disrespect him, but he's cannon fodder for Gennady Golovkin. I think Gennady Golovkin does a demolition job on Wade. Anything within the first 5 to 6 rounds. Fikami says, what do you make of Spence saying he has better boxing skills than Pacquiao, and that's why he stopped Algieri? The thing for me is I thought that Spence is a natural welterweight as opposed to Pacquiao and Khan, who moved up the weights to welterweight and started at much lower weight divisions. So that may have something to do with it. Better skilled? Well, that's going to have to stand the test of time, because all the fighters, the majority of the fighters that Pacquiao's fought, has either gone and been retired or been beaten so badly, you know, that it's not even worth watching and fight. You got Miguel Cotto, maybe Spence would like to test himself against Miguel Cotto. Margachito's not around. Hatton, we know, is retired. Oscar De La Hoya is retired. Floyd Mayweather retired. Timothy Bradley, well, you should fight Timothy Bradley. That would be an argument there. See how he'd do against Bradley. But even then, Bradley's been in so many wars. So I don't know. I don't know. Spence can say what he wants, but I think it goes to the point that, you know, Algieri already got beaten up by Pacquiao. He got punched up by Provodnikov. And really, should Bradley even be fighting as a welterweight? Not Bradley. Spence should be fighting. It's not Spence. Algieri, should he be fighting as a welterweight? think Algieri should be fighting down at light welter because he's got no pop at welterweight and he's cannon fodder. And especially for someone who's a big puncher, they're just going to walk straight through his punches and land the big shots. What do I think of Brandon Rios, a walking punching bag? He's always been a walking punching bag. Big mouth, walking punching bag. That's it. You know. Do you have any inkling to how Spence reacts to adversity? We saw Runtime nearly implode when Collazo put some heat on him. We don't know. We don't know of any of these guys. You can imagine that heat would have been put on him by Broner and by Mayweather, and he's responded in kind by supposedly bloodying Mayweather's nose and and knocking out Broner. So who knows? Anybody can look good in sparring. I don't know what to say about Spence, to be honest. He looks like a real young boy, though. Every time I look at him, he looks like a young boy. Like he's not strong enough. He gives him it's the boyish looks that makes him look like, you know what? You should still be boxing, as an amateur. And, you're not old enough. But he's obviously got the physical strength, and he's 24 years old, so he's not gone into real man strength yet. So if he's punching like that at the moment, I don't know how to react to adversity. I think that Spence is one of these guys who's I think he'll go fire for fire. I think he'll go toe to toe. Just a matter of, what his chin is like. But the one thing I like about Spence is that he knows how to tuck up when under pressure. He knows how to use defense. So anybody who's got good solid foundation in defense is going to do better than a guy like Brandon Rios or Provodnikov, because when he gets on top of them, they use their chin and their faces to block punches. So that's my thoughts on that. Like I said, I've said already about Keith Thurman, him fighting off the back foot and his back against ropes is a concern. He doesn't seem to have any defense when his back's against the ropes. So a bit of a concern there. Let me try and call Mr. Chambers again. No, I would not like to see him against Guerrero because he proves nothing by stopping Guerrero. I think I would like to, and there's a lighter weight. I would like to see him fight with Diego Chavez. That's a good fight for Spence next. Then after Diego Chavez, Kell Brook, Timothy Bradley, any of those guys. But I think Diego Chavez should be next. Oh, Jesse Vargas, maybe? The guy that Timothy Bradley fought 12 rounds with and almost, got wobbled in the 12th. Most entertaining boxer ever. Ever is a tough one. But of recent times, Prince Naseem Hamed, very entertainment, in and out of the ring. Yeah, Prince Naseem Hamed. Let's try and get Eddie Chambers back in the room and see where he's got to. He's still on the road. Okay, Eddie's still on the road, so we will keep going regardless. I mean, Eddie will be back at some point. What about Jacito Lopez? No, it's all right. I tell you a fight I wouldn't mind seeing. Marcus Maidana versus Spence. That's a damn good fight. Whether Maidana can make welterweight and another matter altogether. The difference between the 10 count in the UK and the USA. I think the difference between the 10 count in the UK and the USA is the UK pay more pounds, and the pound is worth more than $1. So you can think of that what you think. What is your full-time job, and how do you have time to stream? Why do you ask? Fade Khabib asks, Spence would end Lopez in 3. He's too small. Yeah, I'd like to see Spence fighting. I'd like to see Spence fight Vargas, Spence fight Maidana, Spence fight Porter, Spence fight Diego Chavez. Those fights would be good. Now, why would I give anybody any information about my life who has got an unpronounceable name and I know for sure that isn't even their real name? You want me to tell you the truth about me, but you can't even come up with a real name. Dear me. I don't know. For those just joining, we're just waiting for Eddie Chambers to reconnect. Eddie is off at the moment. I think he's going to pick up his son, or they're going to a game. And he said that when he got there, he would obviously continue the conversation. I don't know where Eddie Chambers is at this minute in time, but yeah. Mark Smith says, block these people, Ingram. Real C. Nesbitt, music producers. What's your full-time job and how do you have time to watch live streams? One says Real Nesbitt, music producer. Why is everyone asking about my full-time job? Spence and Porter, yeah, that's a good test. Yeah, I think Spence. Hearn is saying Brooke will take the Spence fight. Hopefully it happens. That's the best fight at 147 right now, in my opinion. Lots of unknowns. Yes, I think that is good. Oh, right. It says, Real Nesbitt, music producer, not yours. That was a message back to that guy with the fake name, LOL. Oh, right. Yeah, the person with the fake name. Question to you is, what's your full time and how do you have time to watch this stream? And actually, my second question to you is, how do you know about this stream? And thirdly, why don't you use a real name? Anyway, Spence will beat Garcia. Yeah, well, Garcia looks very vulnerable at the moment. That's why I think his dad just wants him to fight lots of easy fights. I tell you what's really interesting. The light middleweight division is very, very interesting. Austin Trout, the Charlos, Andrade, what's his name? Lara. Hearn won't put Brooke in the Spence. Haha, it's true. I'd like to see all those guys there, potentially, all those guys that I've just mentioned there. All of them are highly skilled. It's a very highly skilled division. It would be interesting to see those guys at like middleweight move up to middleweight. Turbo Pete says, I'd love to see Angel Garcia get chinned. Angel Garcia versus Robert Garcia. What's his name? Angel Garcia. Was it Angel Garcia? Angel Garcia. And who's the other one? Guerrero's dad. That was interesting. It was very interesting to see how Garcia's dad was very quiet around Guerrero. Very interesting. Brian Rose will dominate 154. Ha ha ha. I don't want to see Brian Rose fight again. I really don't. I really don't. I don't even want to see Matthew Macklin fight again. Enough. Brooke versus Jojo down 2. Well, I wonder if they'll be so forthcoming to see Angel Garcia versus John Fury. That's pay-per-view. Andrade would be a beast at middleweight. Yeah. Interesting. My point is this. All these people saying about Gennady Golovkin hasn't got opponents and they don't want to fight him. Interesting to me. Those 4 guys, if those 4 guys fighting at the moment, I'd move them all up to middleweight and see how they look against Gennady. All 4 of those guys there. You clearly want to get blocked. So, you know the beauty about this, I can block you and I'll never have to see you again. Bye. Good night. There you go. It's nice. Do you know about Hara Davies? I do know a bit about him. I really like the look of him, and he looks like he could be a world level sooner rather than later, given the poor 135 is there. Well, you know, everyone looks great throwing punches. Everyone looks great throwing punches against a guy who's defenseless. It's another thing throwing punches back against a guy that's hitting you back. So then you find levels. When you find somebody who's hitting you back, then we get a better idea of what a fighter can do. And until a person gets nailed back, we don't know how good they are. You know, a guy can take your best punch, then we know how good you are. Until that time, Hara Davies looks good, but we'll see. it shows your show's getting bigger with all the trolls, Ingram. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think thank you, Mark Smith, for that. But you're gonna get it all over. I mean, this is quite light. You wait until Saturday night, Sunday morning, with Gennady Golovkin, the Gennady Golovkin Roadshow. Listen. There's certain shows and certain nights that you know is just a troll alert, right? Listen to the names: Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Gennady Golovkin, Anthony Joshua. Those names there, those trolls, those nights are troll nights. Man, yeah, those are troll nights because they just come from everywhere. To be fair, the Pacquiao crowd actually weren't too bad. They were quite nice. They were quite good. It's not bad when you get people in the room. Like I said, the Pacquiao night was unbelievable. 950 people in the room. Unbelievable. When you got idiots in the room, then, you know. When people talk no boxing, it's crap. Yeah, I understand, Mark Smith. Fikri says, why are they... Okay, no. A question for Eddie. When he comes back, do you think if he stayed amateur for another 4 years, do you think he would have won the Olympics where he was 22? Well, I asked Eddie about the amateur... his amateur career earlier, and he talked and he said that he wasn't a very good amateur, and he could just get out of Pittsburgh in terms of amateur his achievements. So he was never he would have been the class of 2000, which would have been Jeff Lacey. He mentioned Jeff Lacey and a few others. That would have been his class. That's where he'd been beat. He wasn't good enough. He readily admits that as an amateur he wasn't very good. And he went to the national championships and he got beaten black and blue literally. And he says when he came out afterwards, his ear was hanging off and his face was smashed to bits. So yeah. Why have the casuals taken to Gennady Golovkin over Kovalev? Kovalev is meaner, a better fighter, and in my opinion, a better resume. Well, of course, I think Kovalev is got to be fast to see him in the pound for pound ratings than Gennady Golovkin. I don't know. You've got to think to yourself, Gennady Golovkin's got a different type of audience, you know, and Gennady Golovkin is more serious in the sense that Kovalev's more serious, a very serious character. You're not going to see him doing a little jig and dancing and doing it. He's more a people's person, Gennady Golovkin. That's why. Rasclut 222. And what's up, brother? Love the show. Yes, I'm doing my best, but slight technical issues with Mr. Chambers. He's just gone off to take, I think, his child to a show, and he said that he was going to ride and talk at the same time. Clearly, he couldn't do that, so we're just waiting for Eddie to reconnect, and when he does, we'll be able to continue the show. So I think it's because Kovalev is a very darker character, very serious character. Gennady Golovkin's a lot lighter. You know, he's got the drama show. He's English, but he's funny. You know, Kovalev's more like a Bond, you know, villain. You know, it's the contrasting characters. I think the Gennady Golovkin and the drama show and the Mexican dance and the hype around him, you know, is probably what it is with Gennady. So sad asked, could you please suggest Eddie to train with Bashir again? Well, it's interesting because he's now training with Coach Anthony, and he'll obviously when Eddie comes back on, he's got a new coach now. He says he rates Coach Anthony, although other people don't know about him. But then he says he rates Peter Fury and he rates Bashir. He says they're different. What's your thoughts on Hatton's new heavyweight? Is it Gorman? You heard much about him? No, I haven't heard much about him. But I guess the test of time for him is when he fights somebody relatively decent. Those 4 years, he could have been in the same squad as Ward. He was 20 at this stage. Yeah, but he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough to get out of Pittsburgh. He readily admitted that. And he used to get his ass handed to him in the gym all the time. So, you know, that's Eddie's story. Who does GGG need to beat for you to give him credit? A puncher that can move, a guy who can actually box and can punch and not scared of him. That'd be fine. Hugo 22899 says Fury looks very heavy, not good. Okay. A real Nesbitt music producer says 4 years amateur experience is more like 8 years in the pros, I believe, because you're fighting more often. Yeah, you're fighting more often and probably fighting better opposition. You're not getting 1 and 2 round blowouts. You're actually fighting good opposition, especially when you go to the national level. It's you're fighting the best people that are around, so you're testing yourself. Do I think Eddie beats Hay? There's no reason why he couldn't beat David Hay. No reason why he couldn't beat David Hay. So Seth says Eddie needs Bashir. Forget Coach Anthony. Interesting. Froch would have roughed up GGG. Yeah, he would have done. He would have gone for it. He would have gone for it, but it would have been interesting to see how GGG responded to getting roughed up. That's the first thing. What does GGG fight like when he's on the back foot and he's pushed his back against the ropes? Nobody's seen that yet. And the other thing is, the other question is, what would have happened, when he started when Gennady Golovkin started connecting on Froch at super middleweight? Gennady Golovkin could be two things. He could be a deadly power puncher at super middleweight, or he could end up being a not as effective a puncher like Arthur Abraham. Bearing in mind, Gennady Golovkin dropped Bute in the amateur championships. I remember watching him do that. Brutal. Mark Froggatt says Murray wasn't scared of him. Look where that got him. Yeah, but Murray's a walking punching bag. And his coach is not very good. He's a walking punching bag. Let's be honest. For someone like Gennady Golovkin, he's a walking punching bag. Remember, he's a walking punch. He's a guy that comes forward, can't punch. Perfect for someone like Gennady Golovkin, so he can actually walk you down and throw shots. Fury has been in camp longer than today. I see him doing kickboxing a month ago on Scope. Do you think UFC will happen for Fury? He's one of the heavyweight champions where it could happen because he's crazy enough to do it, and he's got personality to cross over. And remember, Muhammad Ali did it as well. Muhammad Ali did, I think he was with a wrestler he got involved with. So yeah, it's possible, especially in this day and age. Marketability, make a quick buck, why not? I mean, he always talked about fighting Cain Vasquez, and he was dead serious about that. Fury in UFC, LOL, he isn't that stupid. Well, let's hope not. Ali Jamad says Ali or Tyson in their prime. Muhammad Ali every time. Mike Tyson's prime. If you ask me Mike Tyson, who did Mike Tyson beat in his prime? You start sniffing around and look at the opposition. You think, oh, Larry Holmes. Well, Larry Holmes was old man. I mean, when he fought Larry Holmes was given 2 weeks' notice or 3 weeks' notice to fight Tyson. That's the true story there. And if you don't believe me, you can check out the interview when I was on the In This Corner with Larry Holmes, good friends, and that was something they spoke about. So Ali every time. Ali took on the best in their prime. Tyson, the people he fought in their prime, Evander Holyfield, if you want to say Lennox Lewis, Buster Douglas, they're the guys that beat him. What makes him a Hall of Fame great. I can't believe that Ali and Tyson are in the same room, could be put in the same room. Ali's an all-time great. Good evening. Kell Brook beats Spence. He does indeed. It says, oh, interesting. If Kell Brook, it just depends on whether Spence can deal with Brook's power and if he can get Brook onto the back foot. Eubank Jr. will be a slugfest versus Triple G. Yes, it will be a slugfest, but Triple G does carry some serious power there. But I'm more interested in Eubank Jr. versus Billy Joe Saunders for the second time. I think that fight's going to be announced pretty soon. If he's just stand up, I think he could beat any UFC fighter. The thing is, any top class boxer stands a good chance in the UFC as long as they're not taken down. Boxers need to stay away from UFC. Ask James Toney. Well, James Toney, bit slow and ponderous, short. I think if you look at Holly Holm, she did it the right way. She did it the right way. Rasklar says Ali all day long. Tyson struggled with James Tillis. Oh, there you go. I think we will see one day, says Mark Smith. Jamad says, what do you think of Camelot versus Khan fight? Canelo. Yeah, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Oh, good evening, Cameron. Eddie was in the room. Eddie's now out of the room. Eddie was driving. He lost connection, and I'm going to call you back soon to reconnect. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Khan got knocked out at lightweight. He got dropped and knocked out at light welterweight. He got stung at light welterweight. So in all those three divisions, Khan chin has let him down one way or the other. Against Algieri, his chin looked suspect there, and that was at welterweight. If you get buzzed by a light punching Algieri, then what does that say? Bode for a heavy-handed Canelo. That is my concern. And he's going to be slower, so he'll probably get nailed easier, and the shots will be flush. So I don't see it somehow. I see him getting nailed. Where would you rank Charles Martin in the terms of historical heavyweight landscape? Says YouTube. I would say that let's see what he does after this Joshua fight before we can really say anything about Charles Martin. Because if Charles Martin comes back now and knocks out three top guys, what are we going to say then? DeGale beats Gennady Golovkin. I would go with that. I believe DeGale is the best super middleweight in the world, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think he is. Saunders would beat Eubank again. I'm never betting against Saunders unless he faces Triple G. I love that fight, Triple G, Billy Joe Saunders. Because you've got Billy Joe Saunders who can box, he can slug, he can punch, he's got good footwork, he's got good hand speed. I like Billy Joe Saunders. Well-rounded boxer with punch power, and he's done it the hard way. British, Commonwealth, European world. So, Billy Joe Saunders, good fight. Charles Martin is right up there with Travis Brown in the Hall of Great Heavyweights. Not Travis, that big useless Lucas Brown. Oh, you YouTubers. You YouTubers. Let me try and call back Eddie and see what the score is of Eddie, see if he's got his location yet. Okay. As you can see, Mr. Chambers is still not answering his phone. He's probably still driving on the highway. So we shall continue. Lucas Brown went on the Jeremy Kyle show and passed the lie detector test. You guys are funny. Fury, Klitschko and Saunders GG would have sold out Wembley. I believe so. That would be great fight and undercard. Did you see Stavern getting into a fight with some guy in the gym? I don't know if that was staged or not. I will give Bermain a call either tonight or tomorrow to find out what the hell was going on there. Who do you fancy, Thurman or Porter? Porter. Because I believe what will happen is Keith will come flying out the traps as he always does, throwing bombs left, right, and centre. If Porter tucks up tight, stays close to Keith, give him no room, stay on his chest, puts Keith against the ropes, I don't think Keith gets out can fight off the ropes very well, which will suit Porter. Porter's got to be effective inside. He's got to let his punch. He's got to let his hands go. He can't just stand there. When he gets inside, he's got to learn from the Kell Brook fight. When he gets inside, he's got to let his hands go. So those of you who I recently spoke to Kenny Porter, when you get a moment, check out the interview with Kenny Porter. Just type in Kenny Porter Bayloric and the interviews there. Check that out. Lucas Brown has cement in his bones. That's the only reason why he moves so slow. Oh, got a real issue with Lucas Brown. Do you think the weight loss hurt Cunningham, or is Glowacki too strong? No, I don't think. Actually, Cunningham fought a lot better than I thought he did against Glowacki. He fought a lot better. Well, he fought like an idiot, first and foremost, because I thought he had no game plan. He was just fighting for fighting's sake. Cunningham should have boxed. He didn't box. You know, he was just fighting like a wild man, fighting on ego rather than actually fighting on fighting's sake, for fighting's sake. So I don't know if Cunningham got old or Cunningham just fought. Cunningham boxed. Khan v Alvarez, who wins? Answered the question earlier on. There's only one winner in that fight for me, which is Amir Khan. Not Amir Khan, sorry, Canelo. Forgive me. Cunningham a few years back would have boxed him all night long. Yeah, he would have done. But Cunningham also fought a heavyweight, and he thought, you know, if I can drop these big guys, then this guy would be no problem. So he probably went in there fighting with the mentality of a heavyweight, but boxing as a cruiserweight. So just to correct, Canelo all night long, no chance. If Thurman can't KO Porter in 5 rounds, he's in trouble, says Hugo, and I totally agree with you. Yeah, Cunningham years ago would have boxed rings around Glowacki. Glowacki's got bigger problems because he's now got Alexander Usyk next to deal with. So yeah, again, for those of you who've just tuned in, Eddie Chambers has left the building, and he's in the car, and he's going to drop his son or his daughter off. Mark Fugger says, do you use Periscope to do the interview with Eddie, or just the phone? Tonight was actually, I was doing the interview via YouTube, as you've seen. So the interview was via YouTube, not Periscope. Eddie at the moment has gone, he's going to take his child to some, either he's taking him or picking him up from the game. So I don't know where he's at this minute in time. Cunningham has an adapter chin, and Naseem Richardson is so overrated. Well, based on the game plan that Naseem Richardson had for this fight, what was that? That was no game plan. That just looked like, you know what, I'm just going to get myself in shape. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have a fight. That's what it was. I'm going to have a tear up. Cunningham had no game plan whatsoever as to what he was doing, so I was shocked. If you were Eddie, would you take the Spence fight? I don't know. I'm not Eddie, but I'll tell you something. He'd better take the Spence fight, because there's nothing in the 154 division that I think Brook can handle. Glowacki called that Lebedev, from what I'm hearing. Well, good luck to him. I can tell you something. If Lebedev hits Glowacki, he'll knock him out. I've heard AJ's shortlist for his first defense: Dominic Breazeale, Stiverne, and Molina. Okay, so you can assume you'll get Molina as his first defense. If not Molina, then Malik Scott, because he'll say that Dominic Breazeale asked for too much. Stiverne will love it. They won't touch Stiverne. And Molina. Stiverne will be a stiff first test. They won't touch Stiverne. But I'll ring Bermain and see what he's got to say. Hey, listen to me. If Dillian White hit AJ so easy, can you imagine what Stiverne would do with that left hook? But then who knows? Stiverne is a proven puncher at world level. So I think either Molina, Ati would be a good fight. Duhaupas would be a nice first defense. JD says they all hit hard. Yeah, they all hit hard, but Lebedev has got world class. I think he's a world class puncher, as opposed to Cunningham. I think Lebedev can lay you out with one shot. Brutal puncher. I don't know how much Lebedev has got left, but I love the way he's calling at Lebedev. He doesn't want to deal with his mandatory, who's Alexander Usyk. Very, very interesting. Usyk will beat the living daylights out of Glowacki. Remember Richardson flicking Mosley with towels from the Mayweather fight? Yeah, well, that was Mosley who fought well, got Mayweather hurt, but couldn't finish him off. So let's try one more time with Eddie Chambers. I don't know where Eddie's got to. There you go. So yeah, try to call Eddie Chambers still, and he's not answering. It could be another reason. He could still be on the main road. So we'll hold for another 5-10 minutes, and then do what they call technical difficulties with Eddie Chambers. I think a fit, injury-free, coached Dillian Whyte could become a next top 10 heavyweight, achieve more than Chisora. Well, that's going to depend on Dillian Whyte's mental approach, whether he can be, he'll take more of a professional approach in the future. That's going to be down to Dillian Whyte. You can't teach somebody that. That's something he's going to have to appreciate himself. Lebedev is tough as nails and can punch. He kills Glowacki. I'll tell you, yeah, that's what I think too. If a fit, well-conditioned Whyte is dangerous, yeah, well, you could say that, but then why wasn't he well-conditioned and in shape for the biggest fight of his career? Why did he take the fight? I don't know. So there are many questions. Dillian Whyte has, he's got ability, but it's how far he can go with that ability and whether he's willing to put the work in to move to that next level. If Brown can win a world title, then Whyte definitely can. Well, being in the right place at the right time, and certainly Lucas Brown was in the right place at the right time, and was able to get out from when he got knocked down. To remember, Lucas Brown still got off the deck after landing heavily. I don't know how many heavyweights would have got up from that punch. He got up. Try and get Whyte on this show. He's bang on. I'll try. No promises, but I'll try. The people I'm going to definitely try and get on the show are Bermain Stavern. I'm going to try and talk to Bermain. Got a good relationship with him. Try and talk to him. Maybe a couple of different other trainers on the show. I tell you one who I'd like to talk to, actually, Paddy Fitzpatrick. I'd like to have a word with Paddy Fitzpatrick. He's got so much to talk about, that guy. I'm sure he's got lots to share. So definitely try and talk to Paddy Fitzpatrick. That's somebody I'll be interested in talking to. Try and get Mitchell Smith on. So yeah, I think it'd be a good conversation actually. Who's the best heavyweight at the moment? Who's not currently a champion or previously held some form of a title? I was impressed. Was that Oscar, Riz, or Oscar something? Oscar, yeah, Pulev. But Pulev has been champion. European champion. Yeah, Pulev. Oscar Rivas, yes, he's a good fighter. I like Oscar Rivas. Ngannou, the guy that's in the same camp as Parker, looks dangerous. You've got Luis Ortiz, of course, Joseph Parker. Please can you tell Shannon Briggs the truth and stop being yes men? He has no chance against these young guys. He keeps sparring bums that shit wouldn't be enough to beat Hay, and I don't like Hay. Check out my interview with Shannon Briggs. You might not find me being so much of a yes man, Shannon Briggs. Mr. Mark Smith, and that I spoke to Shannon Briggs before he came to the UK. What about Ward, who was on the Leeds bill? He's a good guy to get on. Who got a shot? Yeah, Ward's good. I'd love to talk to Liam Walsh. I think he's really good fighter. Try and get Conor on. Have a word with Spike. Haha. Well, Conor McGregor is something I definitely want to work on. That's a long-term project, but definitely not trying that. I mean, he's only 3 hours down the road from me when he's in Dublin. White, Parker, Takam, winner should develop. Yes. What about Shannon Briggs? Well, I've had Shannon before. Yeah, Itzu, Igon, no. Yeah, that guy. I've got a lot of respect for him. Fury's the best right now, but a few could beat him. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. If he beats Klitschko, then Klitschko will still be recognized as the #2 heavyweight in the world. Does Us speak English? He would be good, or even use Abel to get an interview with GGG. Well, you do need to do that. I do need to talk to Abel Sanchez for sure, and I'd like to get him. Basically, I'll get Abel Sanchez on here. This would make a great show to have Abel Sanchez. Do fans take boxers too seriously when they call out certain fighters and a fight never happens? I think fans are passionate, and fans are very, very boxed in. Pardon pun. I think they're very boxed in because they only see this. They're like, oh, he called him out, so if he doesn't fight him, it's definitely ducking him. Well, there's lots of things. There's pay, promotions, negotiations. If you're a world title champion, is there a rematch clause? So many other things than just you call me out, I'll fight you. Sometimes it's easier when you've got two guys that are from the same camp. That's okay. But when you've got guys from different camps, rival companies, all that stuff as well. Brook v. Khan, who's ducking who? But if you looked on it, why would Khan duck Brook? Apart from the fact that Brook hasn't got much of a resume. But if you look at Brook, why would Brook want Khan? Well, because Khan has got the resume. So, there's that. Why is Isaac Igonov currently on Poland's Dancing with the Stars? That will probably get his footwork going, build his fan base. Don't know. Conor raw, wild but fun. I like Conor McGregor. He's cool. I think his arse will get handed to him again by Diaz because the rematch is too soon. So there. I thought that Kovalev interview was real. LOL. Very good. Yes. Kovalev will be back with us soon. Don't know how soon, but he'll be back, and we'll have him. Probably start doing some prank Kovalev interviews. That'd be quite fun. Gonna ask you guys, guys and girls, what do you think of these shows, these live shows? I know sometimes planning them is, you can plan them in advance. What do you think of the live shows? What do you think of the live interviews? It's a little different. Instead of doing interviews myself, getting other people to get a chance to talk to their favorite fighters. I think it's quite a good thing. I think it should be done more often. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So this style of interview. Also, who would you like to see on a hangout show in the future? Mark Smith says they're very good. Live is better, says the Black Klitschko. Live is better. I think live is better. As you'll see, every time I talk to the people I talk to, there is no script. There's no pieces of paper. And at the moment, I'm literally improvising because Eddie Chambers it's epic, mate. Eddie Chambers has done a runner in the middle of an interview. Slippery character, Eddie Chambers. Can't nail him clean. I hope that's the same for when Gerald Washington fights him. Eddie. I think I'll leave a message this time on his answer machine. Make him feel really guilty. Mr. Chambers, this is Mr. Jones here. Just want to let you know that you were in the middle of a live show, beaming around the world, and you just disappeared. I don't know if you tried to reconnect, but the show is still live, and I'm still holding the show up, talking to boxing fans in the room, eagerly awaiting your return. So it would be nice if you could get back, but I understand that there's other things you had to tend to tonight. But if you could get back, it would be great. Otherwise, I will close the show off and we'll talk again another time. Take care, Eddie. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye. So there you go. You have you're seeing exactly how an interview would work on the front end of things rather than the back end of things. And you're seeing how I do communicate with various guests. Your live shows at Ace Ingram, you know your shit, and your relationship with Furious has been great. Yeah, I'm sure we can even do better. We need to go there. We definitely need at some point to do a special with the Furious, a special. We get to ask more questions. LOL. Yeah, I think you should add guests to your hangout. I do agree. I think I want to do some more things before we get to that point. But great to have guests on. Get Billy Joe Saunders on. He's good for interviews. He is. Check out my interviews with Billy Joe Saunders. Particularly listen to my second interview with Billy Joe Saunders just before he's about to fight Eubank. I think if I was going to talk about my interviews, that's the most dramatic interview I've ever done, simply because of you could cut the atmosphere of a knife with that interview with Billy Joe Saunders. Mr. Bashir, bring him back. Yeah, I will bring Mr. Bashir back. It's interesting. James Edward Bashir is getting a lot of love at the moment, because he was getting a lot of hate at one point, but he's getting a lot of love at the moment, which is really good. Mark Smith, can tell you have a real passion for boxing, Ingram. Even if I don't agree with you all the time, keep up the great work, Ingram. You're a real person. Well, we try and keep it real where we can. Keep it real all the time, 100%. Hugo says you should try and get a word with Richard Towers. Seems like an interesting dude. I'm not sure if Richard Towers, well, we'll see what he can do with that. You know, he's got the question will be about the Dave Allen fight, and that may take us somewhere. It's nearly 2016 Rio Olympics. Ogogo's been pro a long time now, and he hasn't done dot. I call him Anthony a no-no. That's my nickname for him, because you know. Have you ever edited anything out of interviews? Never, ever. Honestly, never. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because I asked the question before the interview, is there anything you would rather not talk about? Now I'm an open book. So what you get is live and direct and raw. That's it. What do you think of the UK boxing system, the Olympic boxing system? That's a vast question. I think, how many of their Olympic champions actually convert to being world champions? Well, Billy Joe Saunders was in the Olympic team, wasn't it, at one point? Or did he make the Olympic team? You had James DeGale. Tyson Fury didn't make the Olympics, but he's world champion. David Price did make the Olympic team, I believe. Got beat by Stiverne in the World Championships. Price got a bronze in the Olympics, didn't he? Something like that? I don't know. I think Onono has signed, Ogogo has signed with Sowlands. See, the thing about Ogogo, it's not only that. I think he just seems very. I mean, how many people have interviewed Anthony Ogogo? You tell me. How many people have you heard a podcast interview Anthony Ogogo? He hasn't done anything as a pro, really. But he's not been interviewed. So that tells you a lot about Anthony Ogogo. His PR is shocking, in my opinion. I think he needs to re-engage with fans. Ingram, do you think Price can still win some domestic fights? I think Price is still a very dangerous heavyweight. I think he's one of the most legitimately big punchers in world boxing. And once a guy can punch like Price can, he can knock anybody out, David Allen included. Ask the question after Rio. Absolutely. Is it fair to compare heavyweights of the past with heavyweights of today because of the size difference? I think heavyweights today may be bigger. I think heavyweights yesterday were better. I think heavyweights yesteryear fought more regularly. I thought heavyweights of yesteryear were really about the best fighting the best. I think heavyweights today are about marketing and who can avoid who and who can stay unbeaten the longest. Yeah, that's my point on that. So I'll always go with yesteryear. Sorry. All well doing it in London, but if good in Rio, then got to give them credit. Yes, I agree. Hearn will look to sign GB heavyweights, Joe Joyce and Fraser Clark. I agree with you there. UK has more world champions than America. Do you think British trainers have surpassed the Americans? No. You have many more title holders, but are they the best in their weight division? Are they the best in their weight category? I can tell you now, categorically at least, well, most of those guys who are holding belts are not the best in their weight division. Anthony Crolla is not the best in his weight division. Carl Frampton, well, you got Rigondeaux to deal with. Is he the best in the division? Questionable. Tyson Fury, he is the best in his division only because he beat the best guy, which was Klitschko. DeGale, is he the best in the division? Arguably, he's beaten Durrell and he's beaten Boutte, two of the best guys in the division. So you could say he is the best in the division or close to being the best in the division. Crolla absolutely is not the best in his division. Liam Smith absolutely is not the best in his division. So there's my points there. Who else you got? You've got Terry Flanagan. Well, when he fights somebody of world class, I don't think he's the best lightweight in the world. So, you know, I think Ricky Burns gives him a good fight. So I don't know. I think there's a difference between belt holders and real legitimate world champions. And legitimate meaning guys who, you know, all are the best in their weight division. Who would I think? Selby v Russell. I think Selby's going to. Selby will get destroyed by Russell. Hand speed, power, and Selby likes to punch, leave his chin in the air when he's pulling away from punches, and Russell's fast enough to catch him on the way, pulling out. Joe Joyce is 30. What's he been doing? Well, you know, I think it could fast track him into the pro career. Joe Gallagher could inspire the next wave of aspiring US coaches. I hope not. Gallagher, the brains behind the British Kronk. He revolutionized the game. Oh dear. How many Americans are best in their weight division? It's a good question. How many American fighters are still? How many guys are interested in boxing in America as opposed to playing basketball, baseball, and all the other sports? James DeGale, Fury, and Brook. Brook, is he the best in the welterweight division? You can't really say that. He's got the IBF title of Porter. He hasn't fought anybody else in the top 10, to be honest. So no. DeGale, yes. Fury, yes. Russell murder Selby, agree. Do you think that Amir Khan will fare against Canelo? I've said it before. I think that Khan's chin has let him down at lightweight, like welterweight. He looked dodgy. He got rocked by Algieri at welterweight. God knows how he's going to hold a punch from Canelo. Errol Spence versus Kell Brook. Will it happen? Well, if the IBF enforce it, I think Kell Brook needs to move on to Al Haven to avoid that. And what I think of the outcome, Khan gets KO'd by Canelo at some point when those hands start coming down by the sides. And Errol Spence versus Brook is just who's going to empower the will on the other. Does anyone know why Claressa Shields is overshadowed by Gabby Douglas? Maybe because Claressa Shields probably does things that Douglas does things that Claressa Shields not prepared to do. Claressa Shields might be more of a more principled person. It might not be doing what the status quo want her to do. So it might be a political move there that Gabby Douglas is doing exactly what they want her to do, as opposed to what Claressa Shields might be a little bit more difficult. And that's just a guess. I don't know that for sure. Claressa Shields, what I know, is a wonderful girl. Having spoken to Lucia Riker, yes, Lucia Riker, the most feared woman in boxing at one point. Lucia Riker told me of her relationship with Claressa Shields and how she rates Claressa Shields very highly. And Claressa Shields looks up to Lucia Riker. So there you go. A little bit of information there on that. And what are our views on Walters ducking Lomachenko? No, I don't believe Walters would duck Lomachenko. I don't believe that. I would believe more the case of Walters probably being a money man or wanting more money. My man's from Jamaica, so he's going to try and make as much money as possible, you know, to secure himself. Why you want to go and fight a man like Lomachenko just for the sake of it? I'd love to see Kell Brook fight Errol Spence. I'd love that too, brother. I believe Andrade is the best 154 and Crawford at 140. Ward potential at 175. They bear the best Americans at present. Yeah, probably so. 175, Kovalev, Stevenson, Berbatev, Hopkins from Farah, etc. above Ward at the moment. Yeah, they're all above Ward. I'd like to see Ward fight Stevenson first and then go for Kovalev. But there we go. It's good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Pouring them in. I do love the sport of boxing. I really do. I've got to tell you, I do. But there's so many other things that need to be done. But I do love the sport so much. I'd like to bring some new people on the show as well. What did you see? How did you see Lacey Calzaghe fight back in the day running up to it? I saw someone say Brook would beat Spence in a similar way. Nah, no way. You've got to think to yourself. People have eyes, but yet they still don't see. You've got a man in Spence who's got fantastic body work, punches with both hands, good jab, well-balanced fighter. You've got to look at guys' boxing dynamics, their boxing fundamentals. Can he box the game plan? You certainly can do, from what I've seen. Spence is a good fighter, good all-round fighter. Some of these people that make these comments, you've got to ask yourself, do they actually know boxing? Do they understand the science of boxing? Do they understand if a guy's got a good jab, if he can judge distance and space and time? Do they understand the defense mechanisms? Some of these guys that are talking and making these silly comments are guys that think Provodnikov is a great fighter, or think that Brandon Rios is the way to fight, leaving you chinning. You know, so I think, you know, Spence has got a good mix of defense and attack. So, you know, whereas Jeff Lacey, he was very reliant. He was called left hook Lacey. So that should say it all. He was knocking people out with his left hook. It was left hook Lacey. That's all he had, a left hook. So Calzaghe was a guy that had a two-fisted attack, good hand speed, good lateral movement, could put punches together and 4 and 5s. Great boxing brain, adaptability versus a guy who's coming at you with a left hook. But it's the way he took care of Robin Reid at the time. That's what set the alarm bells ringing. People thinking, well, if he did that to Robin Reid, and Robin Reid never gets knocked out, got a great chin, then if he lands on Calzaghe, the same thing could happen. Calzaghe didn't give him a chance. He was just too quick, too much movement, too much skill. I didn't think Ward looked good in his last fight. What did you want him to do? He went against an unbeaten fighter in Sullivan Barrera, who was unbeaten. His first fight at light heavyweight against an unbeaten guy who he did well against, did very well against. I think Ward looked very good. What do you want to see from Andre Ward? A knockout performance? What did you want to see? I think it was a good fighter against a young up-and-coming, and there were guys that thought Barrera would beat Ward. I think Ward looked very good, to be honest, in my opinion. Adonis has one hand, can't beat Ward. No, I don't think so. Did Calzaghe get much abuse like Brook has? No, I don't think so. In terms of poor names on records and voluntaries. No, I don't think so, because Calzaghe, you know, himself had problems with it was fights he pulled out. He pulled out of the Glenn Johnson fight with injuries. Him and Frank Warren had some sort of issues, and I don't know. Calzaghe at one point went his own way. I think he self-managed and he went and fought Jones and Hopkins. So the Hopkins win, I don't think it was a win, but his win against Hopkins was, you know, it's a good win, because Hopkins then went on and beat. Did he go on and beat Tarver after that? Yeah, and he had a decent run at light heavy after that. So, you know, I think Calzaghe is a good fighter, very good fighter, very, very good fighter. Spence Brook would be nothing like Calzaghe versus Lacey. Spence would either break Brook down to the body or run into loads of straight right hands. I agree with you there, Hugo. Would Calzaghe beat prime Michael Watson? I think Watson would eventually catch him for a KO. Watson's a good fighter, but if you look at, you know, the best version of Michael Watson was the night he fought Eubank in the return fight. That Michael Watson would have been a handful for any of the super middleweights in the world. Jerry Boy says, I think Ward looked tired in his last fight against Barrera. Well, he went 12 rounds. I don't know what you want, Jerry Boy. I don't know what you want. Ward is, you know, he's finding his way back. He's been out of the ring for so long. So I'm going to try one more time to call Eddie Chambers, and if he doesn't respond, if he doesn't respond, then I'm calling it a night. Mr. Chambers. Yeah, man. Okay, you all right? You're live at the moment on YouTube, so don't say anything that you would regret saying afterwards. Can you get back in or not? Yeah, if you can get back in, there's people in the room still waiting to see you, Eddie. No, that's all right. I've been improvising, and I've been just holding time for you to get back in the room. Okay. Okay, so I'll wait for you to come back into the room then. No, just push that. Go back to that link. Click that link, and it'll bring you back through again. All right. See you soon, champ. Bye. There you go, people. You're just hearing, again, Eddie Chambers will be back in the room shortly. You heard it yourself. Patience, patience, patience. Eddie Chambers will be back in the room soon, and we'll be able to continue our debate. So please do me a favor. What we do, get all your questions to Eddie Chambers up now ready. So as soon as Eddie comes back into the room, we can continue the show. We can get through and get your question into Eddie Chambers. Collins versus Calzaghe, who wins? Collins gets his head slapped from round 1 to round 12 by Calzaghe. He did look the same Ward that beat Froch to me. Yeah, well, I don't think he would look the same Froch, the same fighter, considering Ward has moved up to light heavyweight. That was probably 4 years ago. Ward is probably a wiser fighter now. He's fighting a light heavyweight. Yeah, it's a lot to ask. Good evening, Boxing Gossip. You're joining in just in time. Eddie Chambers started talking. We had a discussion, and then he left, got in his car, and we're just waiting for him to come back. So good evening, Mr. Boxing Gossip. We're still waiting for Eddie Chambers to come back into the room, and I'm just, you know, there are fights I'd love to have seen with Eddie Chambers, like Eddie Chambers versus Chris Bird. That would have been an interesting fight. I'd love to see how Chambers would have fought against Chris Bird. I'd love to see how Chambers would have fought against the president, Ike Ibuchi. I'd love to see how Chambers would have done against Evander Holyfield. How Chambers would have done against David Tua. How Chambers would do against Brian Jennings. Steve Cunningham. How Chambers would do against Lennox Lewis. Boxing Gossip says, most underrated heavyweight out there for me, Ingram. Absolutely, absolutely. It shocks me when I listen to people over, especially on Twitter, there are people that say that if Hay fights Chambers, Hay would knock Chambers out in the round. I can't believe it. It's two things people say. Just waiting for Eddie to reconnect in the room. He should be with us shortly. So let's keep talking. Mr. Chambers should be in the room. Is that you?
Yep. Back in the room, man.
Good evening, Mr. Eddie Chambers. We resume. Are you there, or are you just me again?
I'm still here, just in case.
Don't
What was that you said?
Don't YouTube tease me now, Eddie. Don't be doing those sort of things.
No, man. No, I'm not gonna do that.
There's a word we call ladies when they tease men. I'm not going to call you that because we're live.
Hey, please don't. Please don't.
Okay.
I promise this was not purposely done.
Eddie Chambers says it wasn't purposely done. Let's get straight into the questions. We've got people in the room. I'm going to go back and ask the questions people were asking earlier on of you, Eddie. We'll take it right back to right at the top of the room. And the question was asked, Neil Hart asked, did you ever do kickboxing or MMA, Eddie? Until he's gone again. Eddie, where are you? Oh, dear. It's the Eddie Chambers show. Eddie, where are you? Driving again, I guess. I think the question should be asked, Eddie, why can't you stay still for a couple of moments so we can continue these questions and get them out? You need to get him on Wi-Fi. You know, Eddie needs to invest in better Wi-Fi. This is off his phone. Technical difficulties for Mr. Chambers. Yeah, that's the one.
You have reached the voicemail box of
Mr. Chambers, this is the police. You are in danger of violating YouTube policies here because you keep disappearing on boxing fans. It's not very good. So we hope that you reconnect shortly. Thank you, Mr. Chambers. So we are still waiting for Eddie Chambers to respond. I study. Tell Eddie Chambers tell him about the 40 quid you owe me. Yeah, I'll tell him about that. England, what you do as a day job? I study and looking to continue my role within community. So I'd love to continue doing community work. I have done some work doing boxing coaching in the community. So outreach is what I train for. Youth work is what I train in. That's what I do. So there you go. There's your answer. Eddie, Tyson, Huey as all heavyweight champions. Heavyweight takeover. Don't they have 4G in USA? I don't know if Eddie's on it, but obviously the purse for the next fight should pay for that. Is it just his phone signal? He will be done the same as you now, just looking at his phone. Doing this, yeah, exactly. Does Eddie feel his boxer rating of 42 is fair? Oh my God. Eddie Chambers is rated 42. Whew. But he hasn't fought many decent opponents. So let me try one more time with Eddie Chambers.
You have reached the voice.
Eddie Chambers. This show should be called Catch Me If You Can with Eddie Chambers. Why is everyone so bothered about the day job? Leave the man alone. This is a boxing show. LOL. Eddie Chambers is ranked below David Price. LOL. I'm late, but Eddie Chambers is the boy. Well, Eddie Chambers is the boy, but Eddie Chambers keeps ducking in and out as people have experienced tonight. Canelo ranked #1 middleweight. What? That's laughable. Laughable. Just think, take yourself back to the time where there was Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran, Barkley. You know, the middleweight division. Sambu Columbe, Michael Nunn. Where would Canelo be in those days? In fact, what would Triple G have done in those days? Man, is Chambers missing Peter Fury? Mike Tyson, hey, Mike, have a word with Eddie. Your countryman's not doing very good at the moment. Nobody hits harder than life, Marky Boy Smith. Canelo ain't even #1 at super welterweight. It's a joke, really. You're right there. You're right on there. I have tried to wait for Eddie. We're going to try one more time to call him, and then we're going to call it a night.
You have reached the voicemail box of.
Okay, Eddie, I'm just saying good night because we're going to have to call an end to the show. We've got people from around the world and mainly a lot of people from the UK probably want to go to bed. So I've just tried to hold the show as much as I can. Thank you so much for your time. And I guess we'll try and do this again another time. Hopefully we'll get you before the Joe Washington fight, if not after the Joe Washington fight. Thanks again, Eddie. Right. There we go. So we've tried EJ Boxing Live. Night. Thank you so much for tuning in, Errol. DeGale, Jack, Ramirez, Bute, Chudinov, indeed. Right, Eddie Chambers has had technical difficulties, and we've had him on earlier talking about his amateur career and the start of his pro career. And then Eddie Chambers went off, got in his car, and went driving. So he went to drop, I remember, his family off to some sort of event. A question, run him off, mate. MMA question, run him off, mate. So, you know, Eddie's not about, so Eddie had a technical difficulty. It's a shame because we're really getting into Eddie Chambers talking about his amateur career, talking about how he wasn't a very good amateur, talking about turning pro, getting beaten up every day in sparring. He wasn't good enough to make the Olympic team. He was just about good enough to get out of Pittsburgh at the time, Eddie Chambers. And then talking about his pro career, I was talking about being an unbeaten fighter, how he linked with James Eder Bashir, thought Bashir was just so knowledgeable, and how he needed the knowledge of James Eder Bashir. Yeah, so why don't you do a Q&A with Ingram Jones instead? I might just do that for my birthday. I'll leave it as that. Ask Eddie to come back to the UK and train in the Fury camp. Get him fighting more. Call me through Facebook. That will work. Right. Great. So can't you get Frank Warren on this? Be nice to get a promoter on this, wouldn't it? It would be show the real power of Bayloric if we could get a promoter on a show like this. Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn. You know, I wouldn't get over Eddie Hearn. I'm more likely to get a Frank Warren or even a Mick Hennessy. That'd be interesting. So, you know, let me know what I was going to talk about. Call Eddie through Facebook. Get Mick. That'll be nice. He's the man. I like Mick Hennessy. I think Mick Hennessy is the best promoter in the country. I know he might not have the star clamor of Eddie Hearn or the you know the time of a Frank Warren, but I think Hennessy. If out of the three of them, if you I trust my life, I trust Hennessy. Do a private Periscope with Eddie. Get straight on. Yeah, well, I reckon Hennessy would do a #1 with you, a one-on-one with you. Yeah, I think he would. Frank Warren would charge you. LOL. No, I think Frank's okay. Chris Senegal, yeah, be good. The interview I'm really interested in doing at the moment is thank you very much, EJ. I've got really interested to do Paddy Fitzpatrick. I want to do Abel Sanchez live. If I can get him, that would be a coup to get Abel Sanchez on live. Let me think. I'd like to get Tommy Brooks live. I'd like to get Fred Jenkins live. Brian Jennings is amazing if you can get him live. Bermay Stavern would be great as well because he's really opened up. Mickey Duff. Is it? I don't think is Mickey Duff even alive. Kenny Porter. Kenny Porter is amazing and he'd do it. Peter Fury. Yeah, do Peter Fury. The interview you did with Peter Fury has gone 300 plus now. EJ Boxing Live, it's now 315,000. It is the highest one-on-one interview with Tyson Fury from any boxing media outlet. One-on-one interview. And I'm not talking about Fury turning at press conferences or Fury with David Haye or Fury around the table with other fighters. One-on-one interview, myself and Tyson Fury. It's the #1 video on YouTube. Check it out. The #1 video on YouTube. So Mickey Duff did, mate. Yeah, he is. So yeah. Shadi Saluki. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Get an interview with Keith Thurman as well. I've got about 5 or 6 interviews with Keith Thurman, all half an hour, 45 minutes long. Thurman used to ring me. You know, I was there for that. Yeah, exactly. Nick Blackwell, you've got the interview with Nick Blackwell. I interviewed him moments before, just after the weigh-in. He is alive and kicking. Great news. Congratulations. Really good to hear that Nick Blackwell is with us and on the mend, which is great news to hear. Check out, if you want to check out any Keith Thurman interviews, check them out. They're just type in Bayloric, they're there. Check out my interview with Muhammad Ali's brother. That is such an insightful information. Check out the interview I did with Ron Brashear. He talks about the life and times of Muhammad Ali. Also talks about Mayweather, what happened when he met Floyd Mayweather. Keith Thurman only does interviews with Michelle Joy Phelps these days. Well, that says what it says. Keith Thurman, when I first started talking to Keith, before these people came involved, and I can say that, I started talking to Keith when he was with Carlos Quintana back in 2000 and early 2012, 2013. And you can check all the back-to-back interviews I did with Keith Thurman. So I can say that. And, you know, the fact that he's now doing it with Michelle Joy Phelps, that's fine. He's a superstar now. So in his mind. So I don't care, to be honest. It's not sour grapes. It's just it says a lot about someone's character to do things like that. Confused about Blackwell. Was it a brain bleed or bleed on the skull difference? Is that the end of the career for sure? I believe it is. Did you fight yourself? I did box myself years ago. I was training under the tutelage of Ronnie Rush, who was the trainer of commentator Barry Jones, who's on Box Nation, and I was training at the time to be a pro with him under his tutelage, and he was Steve Robinson's ex-trainer. Yeah. it would be great if you interviewed Lennox. It would be great if Lennox was a man of his word, but that's another subject altogether. Is one-time tapping Michelle? I don't know. Don't care. But I don't know why he would. His partner's beautiful. I think he's doing more than tapping. Ronnie Davis. Who's your cousin, the footballer? The guy used to play for Tottenham. I think he scored over the weekend for Sunderland. Defoe. What else? Thought you were getting him. Who? Ronnie Davis? If you want football interviews, I did an interview with Trezor Loire as well. Very close to him, old school friend. Ronnie Davis. I've interviewed Ronnie Davis on a number of occasions. Ronnie Davis used to actually knew my amateur trainer. So he used to come watch me down the gym. Defo. You need a blonde girl on this show in the background, stroking your ego, Ingram. A blonde girl in the background, stroking your ego. No, I don't need that. I don't need it. I've got my wife. She's more than fits the bill. Defoe is busy with relegation scrap at the moment. Yes. Who takes the final eliminators for Fury's IBF belt in the bin? Takam or Parker? Let's see what Parker does against Takam. Takam's tough, rough, and interesting. You are used to entertain us down here with his backflip celebration. Yeah, he's a top man. Loire. After who's talking? Also, who talking of Ronnie Davis? Who takes the Billy Joe Saunders rematch? Eubank rematch. That's a tough one to call. But Billy Joe Saunders is still a better boxer. Oh, talking of, right. And Billy Joe Saunders is still a better boxer than Chris Eubank Jr. I think Chris Eubank Jr. is a better boxer. I think Billy Joe Saunders is a better boxer. I think Eubank is a better fighter. When is Huey going to get a British title fight? Well, the vacant British title is vacant at the moment. I hear rumours of Allen and Price being made. Sure, Mick has got a few quid to put up. Let's hope Eubank doesn't lose anything from ending a man's career mentally. AJ will vacate the British title soon. Yeah, I'm sure he will. He has to. What a shame. Did he win it outright? Did he win the British title outright? Who's now the number 1 and 2 heavyweights, British heavyweight rankings? Number 1 and 2 in the British heavyweight rankings. David Haye. Derek Chisora. Well, yeah, David Haye, Derek Chisora, because they both fought at world level. Dillian White, third. Only because of who Chisora's fought. I'd love to hear Mick on here. Mick Hennessy, yeah. Check out the interview I did with Mick Hennessy as well. No, only one fight that was White. Yeah. So I think White, yeah. Talking about how he built Carl Froch. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'll definitely get to talk to him about that. And Matchroom robbing him. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. Allen, White, Price, Towers should do semis and finals for British title. Price fighter for it. Oh, dear. I think that would make a mockery of the British Championship, to be honest. I'd like to see White versus Price, Allen versus Towers. And the finalist, final 2 fight for the British title in the final. That's how I'd go for it. Right, I think I'm going to come to the end of this now. Close this off. Did try to talk to Eddie Chambers and bring Eddie Chambers to you, but we've had some technical issues. That's the only thing when you do a live show, you can't, edit it out and delete the bits where, you know, but it's still, we had good conversation in between. So thank you all for tuning in. No Huey in it. Well, depends if he's actually going to fight for the British title. He may go on for the European title. So yeah, I'm gonna bring this to an end. But thank you all so much for tuning in. If you go back to the beginning of the evening, you'll see that Eddie Chambers talking about his career and as an amateur. If we can get Eddie Chambers back maybe tomorrow night, whatever, we'll try. But there's so much Eddie has to talk about. So all the best till next time. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Bayloric TV. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave your comments. I'm out. Take care.